The Nevada desert stretched endlessly in all directions, broken only by the ribbon of asphalt that was State Route 375. The morning sun beat down mercilessly, turning the highway into a shimmering mirage of heat waves. Most travelers passed through this desolate stretch without stopping, eager to reach civilization. But tucked between two weathered rock formations, a small roadside coffee stand offered the only respite for miles. Elena Vasquez wiped sweat from her forehead as she restocked the cooler behind the counter of Desert Bloom coffee. The modest wooden structure, barely larger than a food truck, had been her sanctuary for 3 years now. After everything she'd been through, this quiet corner of nowhere felt like home. The steady hum of the generator, the occasional rumble of passing vehicles, and the vast silence of the desert had become her daily soundtrack. At 42, moved with an economy of motion that most people mistook for simple efficiency, her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her sun-weathered hands spoke of honest work. What they didn't see was the way her eyes never stopped scanning. The subtle positioning that kept her back to the wall, or how her fingers automatically checked the locations of 3 different knives she kept within arm's reach. The bell above her door chimed as Jake Morrison, a long-haul trucker, stepped inside seeking his usual morning coffee. "Morning, Elena," Jake called out, his weathered face breaking into a grateful smile. "God bless this little oasis of yours." "Morning, Jake," Elena replied, already reaching for his preferred blend. "Colombian dark roast, 2 sugars, no cream. How's the road treating you?" "Same as always," Jake settled onto one of the 3 stools at her counter. "Though I heard some chatter on the CB about a motorcycle club heading this way. Sounds like they're making trouble up in Goldfield." Elena's hand paused for just a fraction of a second before continuing to pour trouble. "The Iron Serpents," Jake's voice dropped. "Heard they've been shaking down small businesses, demanding protection money. Real nasty pieces of work. You be careful out here, Elena, woman alone in the middle of nowhere. It ain't safe when those types come around." Elena handed him his coffee, her expression unchanged. "I'll keep that in mind." But inside, something cold settled in her stomach. She knew about the Iron Serpents. 3 years ago, she'd hoped that part of her life was behind her forever. The rest of the morning passed quietly. A few tourists stopped for cold drinks and directions. An elderly couple from Minnesota bought postcards and shared stories about their grandchildren. Elena listened with genuine warmth, grateful for the human connection that made this isolated existence bearable. Around 11:30, the distant rumble of multiple motorcycles reached her ears. Elena's body tensed automatically, her trained senses cataloging the sound. 4 bikes, maybe 5. V-twin engines. Probably Harleys. They were moving fast, not the leisurely pace of tourists enjoying a scenic ride. Elena moved to the small window behind her counter and watched the dust cloud approaching from the east. Her hand instinctively went to the concealed carry pistol holstered beneath her loose-fitting shirt, then stopped. Old habits died hard, but she'd promised herself a new life. Maybe they'd just want coffee and gas and be on their way. The bikes roared into her small parking area in a cloud of dust and diesel fumes. 5 riders, all wearing leather vests with a distinctive Iron Serpent patch. Elena recognized the type immediately: career criminals who used motorcycle culture as cover for their operations. Real bikers, the ones who lived for the road, and the Brotherhood wouldn't intimidate a lone woman for sport. The lead rider dismounted first. He was a large man, probably 6'4", with arms covered in prison tattoos, and a face that had seen its share of violence. His vest identified him as Razor, and the 3 patches below his name indicated he was an enforcer. Well, Razor called out as he approached her door. "What do we have here?" "A little coffee shop in the middle of nowhere." Elena kept her voice steady and professional. "Good morning, what can I get for you?" The other 4 riders spread out around her small building, not quite surrounding it, but positioning themselves strategically. Elena noted their movements with the eye of someone who'd been trained to read tactical situations. "Coffee's what we're after." Razor pushed through her door, letting it slam behind him. And information. Coffee, I can do. Elena replied, moving to her machine. Information depends on what you're looking for. The biker studied her with predatory eyes. Smart mouth on this one, he called to his companions outside. I like that in a woman. Elena poured coffee into a large cup, keeping her movements calm and controlled. That'll be $3.50, Razor laughed. A harsh sound in the confined space. You hear that, boys? Lady thinks we're paying customers. Through the window, Elena could see the other bikers ransacking her outdoor display, knocking over postcards and tourist brochures. One of them, a wiry man with a scraggly beard, was examining her small propane tank setup with obvious interest. See, here's the thing. Sweetheart, Razor leaned against her counter, invading her space. This is our territory now. Iron serpents control this stretch of highway. That means every business, every dollar that changes hands, we get our cut. Elena set the coffee cup down carefully. I wasn't aware this land had changed ownership. Oh, it hasn't, Razor grinned, revealing several gold teeth. But ownership and control are two different things. We provide protection services for all the businesses along this route. Protection from what? From accidents, Razor's voice dropped. Fires, vandalism, unfortunate incidents with unruly customers. Amazing how much trouble a little business can run into without proper protection. Elena nodded slowly, as if considering his offer. What kind of protection fee are we talking about? For a little operation like this, $500 a month, cash only. First payment due today. $500, Elena repeated. That's quite a bit for a coffee stand that barely breaks even. Razor's expression hardened. Price of doing business, lady. Either you pay for protection, or you find out what happens to businesses that don't. Outside, the bearded biker had found her electrical panel and was examining the connections. Another was testing the strength of her wooden shutters. They weren't being subtle about their threat assessment. I'm going to need some time to think about this, Elena said carefully. Time. Razor slammed his fist on the counter, making the coffee cups jump. Lady, you don't seem to understand the situation here. This ain't a negotiation. This is us being polite and giving you a chance to do this the easy way. Elena's training kicked in automatically. She catalogued his stance, his reach, the knife on his belt, the way he favored his right side. But she forced herself to remain still, to play the role of the frightened small business owner. I understand, she said quietly. It's just that I don't keep that kind of cash on hand. Then you better figure out how to get it. Razor leaned closer, his breath reeking of cigarettes and stale beer. We'll be back tomorrow. Have our money, or things get unpleasant. The bearded biker called out from outside. Razor, you need to see this. Elena watched through her window as the man pointed to something behind her building. Her stomach dropped. He'd found her satellite dish, the one connected to equipment that definitely didn't belong in a simple coffee stand. Razor stepped outside, leaving Elena alone for a moment. She could hear their voices, growing more animated as they discussed their discovery. This was bad. The satellite system was connected to military-grade communication equipment that Elena had hoped never to use again. When Razor returned, his demeanor had changed completely. The lazy confidence was gone, replaced by sharp suspicion. Interesting setup you got back there, lady, he said. That's some serious hardware for a coffee shop owner. Elena kept her expression neutral. Previous owner left it. I never bothered to remove it. Uh-huh. Razor's hand moved to the gun at his waist. And I suppose you don't know what any of it does. I know it's expensive to remove, Elena replied. And it doesn't interfere with anything. The biker studied her for a long moment, his predator instincts clearly telling him something was off. Boys, he called outside. I think our little coffee shop lady might be more than she appears. Elena's mind raced through her options. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. In 30 seconds, these men would shift from simple extortion to serious investigation. Once that happened, her carefully constructed new life would be over. Look, she said, stepping slightly to her left to improve her angle to the door. I'm just trying to make an honest living out here. I don't want any trouble. Too late for that, Razor grinned coldly. See, we don't like mysteries in our territory. And you, lady, are starting to look like a big mystery. He reached for his radio, probably to call in more members. Elena knew she had seconds before this went from bad to catastrophic. Her hand moved instinctively toward her concealed weapon, then stopped. Not yet. There might still be a way out without violence. But as she watched the other bikers moving closer to her building, spreading out in what was clearly a tactical formation, Elena realized that her 3 years of peace were about to come to an abrupt end. The Iron Serpents had picked the wrong coffee stand to shake down. They just didn't know it yet. Tell you what, Razor said, his voice taking on a mock-friendly tone. Since you're being so cooperative, we'll make this simple. We're going to search your little business here. Make sure you're not hiding anything interesting. Then we'll discuss a new protection rate that reflects your unique circumstances. Elena watched as the bearded biker produced a crowbar from his motorcycle, while another pulled out what looked like electronic scanning equipment. These weren't ordinary thugs. They had resources, training, and worst of all, they were methodical. The peaceful morning in the Nevada desert was about to become something very different. Elena closed her eyes for just a moment, feeling the familiar weight of decisions she'd hoped never to make again. When she opened them, something had changed in her expression. The frightened coffee shop owner was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. The Iron Serpents were about to learn that some people choose isolation, not because they're running from something, but because they're protecting others from what they're capable of. The morning heat continued to rise from the desert floor, but inside Desert Bloom Coffee, the temperature had just dropped several degrees.